Bang! Neves Knives, I'm Jared, and today we're talking about the best one and done pocket knife. What's the best knife you could get if you can only have one? Now I'm going to consider that we already have a fixed blade, so we're just needing a pocket knife now. So we have that category taken care of. We need a pocket knife. What's the best one and done? I've tested damn near every knife out there, so I have a great perspective on what company does what the best and what's a really good versatile knife. Now, there are some things we have to consider. Heat treat is super important. So we need to make sure that the company does really good heat treats. Number two, ergos and blade geometry. That's very important. The blade geometry is going to ensure that it cuts well and that it's the right blade shape to be versatile, because some blade shapes are really good with one thing but not good with others. So we need a versatile blade shape. So when I'm talking about versatile blade shapes, I'm usually talking about a drop point, a spear point, or a sheep's foot, or a modified version of one of the three, because that way it's going to be able to do just about everything, at least well. Maybe not the best at everything, but at least it can do everything. Some blade shapes will be really good at skinning, but then they're not good at cutting ropes or utility cuts. This way the blade shape should be pretty good with everything. Also, a strong lock. A reliable, strong lock that will last a very, very long time and can handle being open and closed, open and closed, open and closed. So let's start this list off. So Hinderer Knives. I love Hinderer Knives. I think they are an amazing, amazing knife. I have many of them. They not only are super reliable, I love the way their lock face geometry is done. They lock up rock solid every time. I've never felt one with lock stick. I've never felt one with any play. They're super solid, robust, hard use knives. And you know, they even look like it. Like, I just love all the hardware. It's just the overbuiltness to it. I love it. But it does have some fallbacks. Like, one, the geometry is on the thicker side, so it's not going to be the best cutter or slicer. Now granted, this one is the skinny, so it's a little bit better than, you know, some of the other ones, but the geometry and the steel, because it's a hard use knife, they do run this steel a little bit on the softer side for the steel they're using, so the edge retention does go away a lot quicker than some of the other knives using the same steel that have a little bit higher HRC on their steel. Now, I'm not saying it's bad or anything like that, but I do notice that this thing does lose its bite and it does go dull faster than some of my other steels. So because of that reason, I probably wouldn't make it my one and done, but I totally could, because this is an awesome knife. But because of the geometry and because of that, and same thing with the Demko, I absolutely love this knife. Reliable lock. This is a lock that can be open and close, open and close, open and close, and it's extremely strong, very hard use, but it's a little too hard use. Remember, we already have a fixed blade, so we don't need another fixed blade, and I'm not saying this is a fixed blade, but it's a very robust knife, and the geometry is just entirely way too thick for a one and done, even though it is an amazing knife. And for the same reason, this one would have to be out. I absolutely love the Freeman. The Freeman is a USA made knife. Actually, all the knives we've talked about so far have been USA made. And it's using Magna Cut. Very good action. I absolutely love the knife. However, it's 60 thousandths behind the edge. Yeah, 60 thousandths. That is entirely way too thick for a good folding knife. So we're gonna cancel that one out. Now, over here, this is the Vargon Knives. Now, this could totally be a great one and done for me. However, a couple things why I wouldn't choose it. One, it's not made in the USA, and to me, my one and done, if it was gonna be only one, I like having USA made stuff, you know, and I think if it was gonna be my only knife, it would have to be USA made. So this one's made by Reeve, which, even though Riett's a great company and they do really good work, it's not made in the USA. Striders. Why wouldn't I choose this? I'm not going to choose this because I think they're a little outdated. Now, granted, I like Striders. I love their designs, but there's so many things that they could improve on in 2023. Like, one, their lock faces, their lock sides, they're very poor. They're soft. It's titanium, but so are these. But this is soft titanium, which leads to serious lock stick, and in many cases, people have to have another tool just to unlock their knife because it gets such serious lock stick. It starts warping the lock face, and it just leads to trouble. Especially, you know, when it's your only knife, you're going to be squeezing on it and, you know, using it through tough situations. You want that lock face to be reliable and not be warping every time you open and close it, which happens with a lot of Striders. Now, the fit and finish is also a little bit on the rougher side. I think that, you know, there's a few things they can improve on, and you know, that's why I personally would not be picking a Strider, because I would not I would not want to open my knife and not be able to close it. This one I've gotten, I had the lock face carbonized and the lock stick still came back, and now I have permanent marker and it's carbonized. So now let's go to the Slish Buoy. Something like this, I absolutely love this knife. But like I was talking about before, blade shape matters. And this to me is not a versatile enough blade shape. While it's a blade shape that works, and I could totally use this, and I've carried it, you know, for weeks on end, and I love it. I absolutely love it. But I would not want it to be my one and done, because I need my tip to my knife to be a little bit lower. Because the higher you have to lift your elbow to get to the tip, the more you lose leverage. I want leverage in my cuts, so I can't do that. Now, this would be a great blade shape for that. As you can see, it's a sheep's foot blade, and that's going to go good for utility cuts. It's going to be great for slicing. I can do reverse grips, and because this is a Griptilian, the grip is really, really comfortable. Benchmade Griptilian sheep's foot, USA made. It's already checking a lot of categories. However, it is using the crossbar lock, which does use Omega springs. Now, since we're not in an apocalypse, and I want to say that too, we're not in an apocalypse. So, you know, it's not that type of situation. It's just a situation where you're looking for the best pocket knife. Because if this was an apocalypse, I would be grabbing this. This would be my folder. The 4MAX Scout, the Cold Steel 4MAX Scout, because this lock is so reliable and can handle all the abuse you can ever throw at it over long periods of time. This is a lock that only gets stronger with hard use, and it's something that could last, you know, the years on end of abuse, without a doubt. So that's why I would pick that. But we're not in an apocalypse. It's just a knife that we need for daily tasks, work, and, you know, just EDC stuff. So this one, I totally would pick it, but, and I do think it'd be great. I could totally see this as a great one and done. Geometry is a little bit on the thicker side, and the Omega springs can break. So, you know, if it did break, you'd have to, you know, wait to get it replaced, order new ones. You could always order a bunch of extra ones and have them laying around. That's what I used to do. So then if they do break, I can always just slap a new pair in. So that's always a good idea, but it's something to consider. But even though I love it, would not be my one and done. Chris Reeves. I absolutely love my Chris Reeves knives. The SEBENZA 21, I think their lock face geometry is done fairly well. I know they're not very strong. I'll say that. I know they can't really handle abuse from the spine. But as just a basic cutting tool, the ergos are incredible. They are very comfortable. You can use it in any grip. It's well balanced. And it's a reliable tool. Then the geometry and blade shape is great. This is a fantastic blade shape for EDC, and the geometry because of the hollow grind. So when you sharpen it, it's not going to get super thick behind the edge after just a couple sharpenings. You're going to be able to sharpen this over and over and over and over, and it still have the same cutting geometry. So because of that, I do think that this is a great one and done. One of the best one and dones right here. But you know, some people want fidget factor. This is not that. It is more of a slow roller, but I think the guy looking for a one and done is not going to worry about that, and I think that that is a great, great option. The Hogue Deka. The Hogue Deka, it has a great blade shape for EDC, great utility cutting, great slicing, very ergonomic. However, I think if you're going to get this one, you need to get the original GOAT scales. I have it linked down in the description with a discount code to original GOAT. I'm not sure if there's any in stock when you're watching this, but you can check out their store and see if there's any scales you want to get. But this, I can't express this enough, massively changes this knife. One, the Hogue Deka is a cool knife without, you know, with the regular scales, but it feels cheap. They're flimsy, they're flexible. You can get the G10 one, and the G10 one's really good. So, but if you want the Magna Cut steel, which they have raised their HRC now, so if you want the Magna Cut steel one, then I would recommend getting the original goat scales, because now this thing is so solid. I mean, this thing is vault-like and still extremely, extremely smooth, very compact, very lightweight, very easy to carry. This would be a great one and done as well, but I would not pick it. And I'm gonna express why here in just 1 second. Spyderco Capara. Now we're getting into knives that I'm more probable to call a one and done, because their heat treat is on point. I mean, on point. And I don't think a lot of people realize, because they're not sharpening constantly and they're not deburring constantly and dealing with the edge retention of steels, they don't really notice the difference. And I know a lot of people have that. And that could be you. You might not be able to notice the difference between a poor heat treat and a good heat treat. But let me tell you, when you've sharpened a lot of knives, you can feel it. You can tell, and the way a well heat treated steel sharpens, it takes such a far crisper edge, a far better edge. It deburrs really good. It's easy. It's just everything about it. It's just better, and it makes it to where poor heat treat or soft heat treats stand out massively. Because they outcut everything. It outcuts it. It takes a better edge. It deburrs easier, and personally, I don't worry about sharpening in the field. So like if I know a lot of people think about that. They're like, well, I wouldn't want blank steel because out in the field, I'm not going to be able to sharpen it. But if you're really good at sharpening, you'll be able to sharpen any steel out in the field, as long as you're using the right stones, like diamond stones. Now, Spyderco PM2. I think this is by the way, the Kapara, I do think this is a great one and done. S30V, it's going to be very versatile. You can use it in every grip. And it's got a good reliable lock, the compression lock. It is a strong locking system, and I do recommend this a lot. But I would not pick it for my one and done, even though it could totally fit that bill. The PM2 is another one. My favorite steel right here, K390. I absolutely love K390, and also, it comes in all kinds of other steels. They have crew wear. I got one in crew wear that I also love. They come in so many different steels, and that's the beautiful thing about Spydercos. They have so many different steels, and they heat treat all the steels very good. This has a very strong locking system, the compression lock, so it does have the fidget factor, but it's also a fantastic blade shape for EDC, and it's going to work really good. I think this is a fantastic, versatile knife for a one and done. However, my choice for the best one and done knife you can get is the Spyderco Manix. Some of you probably knew this was coming. The Spyderco Manix is, in my opinion, the best one and done, and I'm going to explain why. One, it has a lock that is made to be open and closed, open and closed, open and closed over and over without it breaking in too much to where it starts failing. Like locks like a frame lock, when you squeeze this, you're going to be squeezing this a lot because it's your only knife. So this lock face is going to eventually travel all the way over. A lock like this doesn't do that. It's using a ball on a spring. Now you're probably thinking, well, what if the spring breaks? I have never seen a Spyderco's spring break. I'm not saying it can't happen or it doesn't happen, but I've never heard of it happening. And this is a spring that even if it was an apocalypse, I could totally replace it somehow. This is a very, you can see the type of spring it is in there. And that type of spring, it's a common spring. You could make it, you could find one. Same thing with Omega springs, so I'm not saying you couldn't do that too, but I think this would be, it's one, you're gonna have way less likely chance of it breaking, and it's a spring that's made to last a lifetime. Anyways, this would not be, like I said, if this was an apocalypse, I wouldn't choose this. However, I still think it'd probably do pretty good, but it's got the blade shape, the versatile blade shape, good ergos. Now the one downside is it's not gonna be the best for pull cutting, but you can do it. You can totally do it. Now, if this was gonna be my one and done and I couldn't have any other knife, I would probably knock this down just a little bit, which would be very easy to do, but I would knock that down a little bit just so when I do turn it like this, it's not poking me in the hand. But I could still do it, so it's not that big of a deal. And all the other grips are great. But when it's your one and done, you know, you can change little details about the knife to make it better. Most of the things I mentioned with the other knives, I couldn't change or make better unless if I get, you know, maybe with the geometry, I could get regrinds and things like that. But Spyderco has so many different versions of the Manix. So there's lots of different flavors, different feels. They're all heat treated extremely well. And even I have a hard time even thinking like which one would I choose if it was a one and done between the XL, you see how much bigger it is than this one, between the XL and the regular one. I might even just choose the XL because this is such a comfortable, large, badass knife that handles like a smaller knife. Like this is something that while it's big and robust, I can totally wield it like a smaller knife. And I like that. I like that the lock is strong enough to be very reliable. And you can also customize them very easily because you can get scales. Like this one has titanium scales and a titanium cage, which are all aftermarket. You can get different clips. So you can basically make them your own. And there are so many different scales, and you know, you can get fat carbon, you can get titanium, you can get micarta. So you can make it your own for sure. And like I said, since they have all the different blade steels, but I think that this is the best one and done universal knife that you can buy. I think this outbeats the PM2, even though I love the PM2, but I think the PM2, I think the tips are just a little bit better on the Manix. And like I said, I love the PM2, I love the pair 3s, but I think the Manix beats it. And especially if you do like the little modifications to it, which you don't have to. But anyways, that is my opinion and my choice for the best one and done folding pocket knife, considering we already have a fixed blade. Now, if I was gonna pick the best one and done fixed blade knife, I have about 10 or so in mind that I would choose between, but I haven't really narrowed it down to what I would pick as the one and only. So that will have to be in another video. If you guys want to see that, let me know down in the comments. Thank you guys for watching. I love you guys. Peace.